I'm Warren. This is...
I'm Will.
And we're a couple of wine guys.
I'm actually a certified sommelier through the Court of Master Sommeliers, which is about the lowest level you can get before you really start diving heavily into advanced Burgundy and Bordeaux stuff.
And I'm not.
But through experience...
I've had a lot of wines, several thousand of them, and both of us are featured users with Vivino, which if you don't have that app, download it. It's
Absolutely.
Freaking awesome.
Yes.
You're going to love it. So we're going to jump right into this one. Will and I have had thousands of bottles of wine. Well, I may be exaggerating.
Mostly together.
We've had hundreds of wines together. This is our gazebo where we drink a lot of wine. We drink and we know things.
Yep, just like Tyrion Lannister.
Today we're going with One Stone. This is a very inexpensive cab that I just ran into by accident somewhere.
It does not drink like an inexpensive
It does
cab.
not drink like an inexpensive cab. No, it is quite nice. It's one of the reasons we chose to have it be one of our early reviews.
I think when you and I were first talking about it, I said that this would be a fun to bring out as a ringer at a party with really more expensive bottles, just to see what people thought about it. Because there's a tendency, especially if you're not serving stuff blind, when you bring out cake bread or what's one of the other ones that we usually think of? The more famous Napa cabs.
Oh, we're talking Paul Hobbs.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Anything by Orrin Swift.
And as good as they might be, there's a tendency for people to form this gradient, be like, oh, well, this thing is $25.
Austin Hope.
Could it be as good as these more expensive ones? If they don't know it, and they don't know the price.
I've done a ridiculous number of blind taste testings, and I think that they're marvelous. It really changes how you look at wines and the pricing structure when you realize that everybody graded some wine you'd never heard of that was $30 a bottle higher than Opus 1.
Right,
now,
exactly.
I'm not dogging Opus 1 when I say that, but
No.
you sometimes run into those wines, and it's hard intellectually to let yourself believe this cheaper wine, much less expensive, could be the better wine. So that's always an interesting thing. I do tend to drink more expensive wines. That said, when I run into one of these, because of all my blind taste testing, I can go, "Hot damn, that's a really good," in this case, $19.99 bottle of wine. It's 3.9 stars on Vivino with over 1,000 reviews.
Yeah,
and it's solid. It smells nice.
A lot of dried fruit character.
A lot of fruit, some oak.
I'm getting kind of like a raisiny, almost pruny in a good way.
Yeah,
kind of aroma, but definitely a lot of smoky oak characteristic.
And I have had operations on my nose. I do not smell as badly as well as other people, or bad. I don't know. At any rate, so we're going to rely on Will's nose a little bit more than mine. Although there are times when I pick out like oak and some things that
well, I had that
I'm
bad
better
allergy
at.
season this year, so I was definitely struggling a little bit. Glad that we're more or less over that.
So yeah, it's very nice oak and lots of fruit. Lots of fruit. Really like the look at the color. It's a nice, pretty red.
Beautiful deep color.
Very nice mouthfeel.
Yeah, for all that dried fruit character, it's got a surprising amount of silkiness to it. With some wines that have more of a dried fruit character, there can be like a tartness that sort of defines them up.
A bit of that.
Oh, absolutely,
there.
definitely,
a little bit, but it's not enough to. There are people who like tart wines,
so
they have no issue with it. But this, I am not somebody who likes a lot of tart in his wines. I used to be someone who didn't like any tart in his wines, but over time that's changed, and now I enjoy a little. I don't want too much. I don't want to.
You like higher acid without tartness, because you've moved into Washington.
That's how long we've been drinking together, people. That's how long we've been drinking together.
I've been sort of analyzing Warren's palate, and it's not that it's gotten better, because he always had a good palate. That's how we started hanging out together. But his tastes have shifted.
Yes,
when we first started drinking together, this is Paso Robles. Paso Robles was your go-to.
I still like Paso Robles.
Absolutely. But you were going for Zins and Red Wings from there.
And I barely touch Zins at all these days.
Exactly.
That used to be my mainstay.
Right.
And now I'm much more into Napa cabs.
Yep.
I've discovered Australian Syrahs, especially from Molly Duker, one of my favorite vineyards. And Italian Amarone.
Yep.
I mean, how can you not love that?
But this was something that happened post-COVID, or I guess like during and after COVID, was you developed a real taste for Bordeaux and for Washington cabs.
Yeah.
And those are defined by their higher acidity compared to...
Just the smoothness in the mouth once you get there. It really, really grabbed me. It didn't used to matter. Look at those legs. Don't know if you can see that over there, but This has got some serious legs.
Yep.
I should have written down
the alcohol
content. Oh, well, we're new at this, folks. We'll get better. We
Yeah.
promise.
Does it even have it?
I'm sure it does, but I'm not going to waste a whole lot of valuable time staring at it.
My guess is if I'm going to take a stab at it, it's between 14 and 14 and a half.
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem super. Once you get past the 15% mark, you can kind of feel it, and I feel like this is a little more restrained than that.
Second sip's a little jammier than the first.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take one more look.
It's opening up.
Nope, it does not say on the front.
But definitely more of a red fruit defined. When I was taking my introductory sommelier course,
I literally don't see it, bro.
They said if you were ever struggling or trying to narrow down your perceptions, that red fruit by and large had a sweeter. It doesn't mean necessarily like sugary sweet, but just like the presentation of the fruit seems to have the illusion of sweetness. Black fruit has more bitterness, and then blue fruit, like blueberry, it's just a softer, rounder. And honestly, the difference between blue and red fruit is normally like the red fruit is sweetness with a little bit of tartness, and the blue fruit is just sweetness with no real tartness.
I was really surprised when I started drinking how much fruit you could sometimes taste in a wine that otherwise wasn't sweet. I was expecting, if you've got a huge amount of strawberry or raspberry in your wine, that's going to be a sweet wine, and now I know better.
Welcome to the. I have this discussion with my dad every 3 months or so, where he'll tell me, "Oh, I had a Côte d'Arona and it was sweet," and I'll say, "No, it wasn't."
It was fruity.
And he'll say, "How would you know? You weren't here." And I said, "Because I've had a lot of Côte d'Arona. They're not sweet."
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. I mean, it does if you're not used to it, or if it's in my dad's case, it was just that he came late to the table. He thought that. Tasting flavors in wine was a weird code that people had with each other.
When I first started drinking wines, I thought that too. And
it does sound sort of like it's meant to keep people out rather than bring them in.
Well, I remember what I did when I first started drinking and moved away from just drinking the sweet wines my wife loves. Yeah. Love you, babe. Sorry, but at any rate, I would like read the reviews, and then I would desperately try to taste the things that were in it.
Right.
And it took me a few months, lots of bottles of wine. And someday I may go into for the blog about why and how I became a wino.
Yeah.
But I'd really rather not right now.
Yeah.
Because we got plenty of it we're dumping on you here at the moment.
Yeah. We need to keep some for an even rainier day than this.
And we're going to have many, many more toasts with you.
Yes, absolutely.
But at any rate, I just lost the thread.
We were talking about the different types of fruit flavor and character in wine.
Oh, and so what I did is I would read these reviews and try to kind of like puzzle out where those things it was saying. And after 3-4 months, I actually got to where if I read ahead of time, I could actually taste those things. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And then after a while of that, I got confident, and then I just started doing it first, writing down what I tasted, and then looking at the review, and hit far more often than I missed.
When I first started, when I was first getting into the industry in 2007, 2008, like I would try, and this is very difficult to do in an industry tasting where you're going bit, to get every type of fruit flavor that was there. And what I learned over time was kind of a triage, is I would try to nail a couple of different flavors and a couple of different smells that seemed the most, whether they were varietally correct or whether they were just really prominent. If I was tasting a Chardonnay that had a really strong apricot scent, even though I wouldn't say that's necessarily a Chardonnay-like characteristic,
but you definitely
write that down and put some underlines underneath it.
Yeah.
And then focus on the texture, the mouthfeel, the finish. Like try to get the 5 things down as quickly as possible, because you can get lost in flavors and aromas and not focus on anything else.
For me, the big difference in life was the Vivino app, because now I don't have to drink bad wines. You go into some of these shops and everybody's got great copy on the back of their wine. This is the best wine you've ever had, and it's $4.99 a bottle. Woo-hoo! Yeah, no, not so much.
No,
but now you can scan it with your Vivino app or probably some other ones, and boom, there's the information you need to know that you don't need to buy that wine. Or there are sometimes I feel terrible because I don't remember all the wines I've tasted. I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I'm like, take the picture. I'm like, yeah, you do. You gave it 4.5 stars. Oops.
Yep.
And then there's other ones. Ooh, I did like this one. No, you hated that one. So that's
you thought you liked it because of the label, but you were wrong.
Labels don't usually grab me. I mean, this one had a nice label, but that's not really. I mean,
right. The other thing I like about the democratic aspect of Vivino is that the star ratings to me, although they are useful on a limited basis, what's much more useful is reading other people's reviews. If somebody tell me they really like the wine and it paired well with a steak, I'm not saying that's a bad review. They're probably correct. It did, but it doesn't tell me anything about the wine. Yep. And if there's 10 reviews like that, I'm like, maybe I'll wait until that's free or at a party or something, and I can actually get a sample of it without having to. But if I read, like, you and I collected friends on Vivino whose reviews we trust, like James Jordan and some other people, rock
some names,
rock and roll wino.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But the thing I liked about their reviews is that I trusted them. Mm-hmm. Their palate seemed to be aligned with mine, and they had a good vocabulary.
I can think of a number of them.
Yeah, so if they got on and gave something 3.5 stars, and they were like, "Hey, this is like an everyday kind of drinker, but it's really good, and it's only however much a bottle. You should think about getting it." I was like, "Okay, that means more than some stranger telling me it paired well with the steak."
After I got there was a wine shop. I got a DM from a guy running a wine shop in Switzerland, and he had seen my review of Napa Cab that he had an opportunity to order, but he couldn't taste it.
Oh,
and he'd been reading my reviews for a while, and he's like, "Okay, so I know what he likes."
Gave him
and so he bought
like
mine. 10 cases, and after that, I was like, "Okay, I'm not just gonna phone these in. If there's some chance that somebody's gonna drop serious coin."
You don't do that. I mean, if there's anybody accidentally causing inflation between the two of us, it's me. I found it really interesting though that we're basically only like a half star off. Mm-hmm. That I give something 3 stars.
I'm a little rougher than he is.
But if I give something 3 stars, that means it's acceptable as a wine. And if for you that starts at 3.5. So we're basically just like a half a star.
3.5 means that I would drink it again if someone handed it to me. 3 means I would sip it again and be polite if somebody handed it to me. 4 means that I enjoyed it and I might buy it again. 4 means I'm gonna buy it again. Yeah. And 5 is sublime.
Yeah, no, 5 to me is a transcendent experience. And I tried really hard early on.
And we will have some of those with you.
We will indeed. Probably
this is good. It's not transcendent. Sorry,
probably one of those beer.
But for the price, this is a stunning value.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean one of the things that really stood out for this, and this is one of those things that doesn't get talked about enough in the wine world for me, is they call it on Vivino the QPR, the quality price ratio, which is a really good ratio to have. Because, I mean, for me personally, and for a lot of people, price does become an issue. You don't want to go so far down the level that you're getting into bad quality, but intuitively, you're looking at the shelf and you're like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff here in the $20, $25 range. Some of it's pretty darn good, and other of it is probably more in the $15 range, and I want something better for my money.
The one thing I would say about the Vivino rankings is realize that once you get past $50, you should add a half star to the review, because people are reviewing the more expensive wines much more harshly.
Yep.
So, if you see 4 stars on Apothic Red, and you see 4 stars on
Camus
or Austin Hope or Opus One, trust me, one of them's got a better. The 4-star means more on one of them than the other.
Well, and also, I think the converse is also true on cheaper bottles. There's a tendency of people, just because they like it, to put 5 stars and not even leave a review. They just really like it, and they're not really thinking about the.
I need the review to know whether or not I can trust that.
Well, but you and I are thinking about our review stars way more than the average.
Well, we're
American
featured users. People are following us, so you don't want to be the guy that tells them to drink a wine that turns out isn't that good.
Heck no. And the other thing is that
they'll stop following you like that.
One of the reasons, I mean, it's one of those that's the subjective objective balance. It's like some wines are objectively good. Even if they're good, not everyone's going to like them. So one of the things that I try to drive home in my reviews is to really tell a person, like, look, it's the Winston Churchill joke. If he likes this sort of thing, then this is for him.
This is his sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And I always say a good wine is a wine you like. And if people tell you it's no good and you like it, I can think of all kinds of things that I'm not going to say here that you should say to them. It's just basically tough. I like it. That's all that matters. That's the biggest, most important thing when you drink wine is, do you like it?
Well, and for years I thought that my dad had stopped liking white wines. Because when I was a kid and he first started making decent money, he would go out and he would buy Chardonnay and Riesling and Vinho Verde. And then over years I realized his entire wine shelf was basically Côte d'Aron, Bordeaux, pretty much all French, Spanish, Italian.
Yeah.
And I said, so you don't like white wines anymore? I said, oh no, he said, I don't drink wine as quickly as you and Warren do. and I leave it in the fridge for white wine in the fridge for a few days, and it just seems to lose all of its flavor.
Yeah, I could.
And I was like, okay, so you're saying if I bring a white wine or a sparkling wine, it's like, oh, I'll drink it with you, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I am mostly a red drinker, but I started as a white drinker. I adore a 10-year-old Riesling, especially if it's from Germany. Only if it's from Germany, really. There's some areas in France that can pull it off.
I'm with Harry Wall. Wine's first duty is to be red. But that being said, I'm also
to be drunk. Or to get me drunk. I don't know. I get confused.
Well, he thought a wine's second duty was to be burgundy, which you definitely wouldn't agree with.
I like burgundy. I like it a lot, but I wouldn't
but
agree
you
with
would
that.
not think it was anywhere close to its first duty to be burgundy. You think its first duty was to be red and its second duty was to be cab.
And its third duty is to knock my socks off.
Yeah, and hopefully be over 15 if possible.
Yes, over 15 years. Well, years too. I
15 years too.
I love them older. Now we're not doing. We will do some older ones. I've got some amazing wines we're going to break out later.
But this was, I mean,
this is really good.
We noticed the cork. I hope it shows up a little bit on camera.
Bear with us. We're new.
It does not look.
It looks like it's been in the bottle for 10 years.
Yeah, it does not look like it's a 5-year-old. Barely 5. It's not even 5.
This wonderful artwork.
Yes.
The artist is Audrey Jackson. Now, One Stone actually, as it turns out, is owned by It's owned by Ancient Peak.
Okay.
Now, it's three dudes who own a farm, from what I could see on their website, and make wine. It's
right.
They're first generation winemakers, it would seem. Again, there's not enough history there. If they're from a family, I don't know.
So are they from different businesses collaborating together, or from the same business doing an offshoot?
That wasn't real clear, and I'm not trying to go too far down the rabbit hole.
Right.
I want a little bit of information. And
going down the rabbit hole is my job.
Yeah, exactly. The One Stone seems to be, for whatever reason, this is, they're highlighting the women winemakers.
Yes.
They have a thing called, and this is kind of cool, dreambigdarling.org, which is for mentoring women in the wine industry.
That's really cool.
And they say spirits too. So it's actually a non-profit. You can give them money.
Yeah.
Can't buy their wine, but
when I was doing the nakedwines.com thing, there was really
all these free placements, people.
Yes. Well, the weird thing is that I just realized I'm a natural product placement, because these are actually things that we use.
Right. We actually like these.
Yeah,
things.
We actually like these things. This is not
nobody's paying us yet, but they will.
This is very sui generis organic. But we've just been drinking wine a while, and when you do that and you want tools in your toolbox, you discover things and find things.
And believe it or not, this is not very different than from the hundreds of bottles we've drank in this gazebo, looking out of the pond in my front
yard. Not at all. No.
This is what we do.
Yeah, no, I mean, it may seem like a set piece, but I mean, really,
we
the
don't
only
always
difference,
have the table.
Yeah, and we're usually over there instead of right here. We moved about 5 feet
so that we could get a decent video.
Yeah. And have a nice backdrop with the pond and the doors.
Yep. And I hope you enjoyed the intro music and the outro music. My daughter played that. She's a marvelous harpist.
Yes. One of the things that we were talking about just recently was her pathway through her harp career.
Yeah.
So far, we were talking about that back in Blacksburg a couple of weeks ago. But the thing about Naked Wines was that there were a lot of women winemakers on there. And one of the things that really struck me was, this is something I hadn't really thought about, but there was a lady who was from South Africa, a black lady who was a winemaker, and she talked about sort of a double whammy of having the color of her skin and her sex
and
against
it
her.
doesn't help being in South Africa.
No, not at all.
So many bad wines. Now that said, in the last 2 years, I spent a year out of the country, and in Malta, I discovered some awesome South African wines that, as far as I know, don't make it to America, because I think everyone I've ever had tasted like a rubber tire.
Yes.
Until I had them
Big
outside of
with
America.
Pinotage, yes.
And people are like, oh, you have to try this. I'm like, I don't want to. All right. Holy crap!
Yeah,
doesn't suck.
And this is one of those
pretty damn good.
Yeah, there's it's the rubber tire thing about Pinotage is one of those microbiological questions I haven't heard a good answer for yet.
He's also a chemist.
Correct. And it really actually helped a decent amount.
American kind, not European.
Yes. I don't own a pharmacy. Well, I live in Floyd.
Floyd is a pharmacy.
Yes.
You can look that up. You may figure it out. You might not.
Did I ever I was at Chrysalis Vineyards one time, and the guy behind the counter was asking us where we were from, and I said, I'm from Floyd. And he said, oh, Floyd Fest. And I said, I know what you do in your spare time.
Oh, Jesus.
He got this very happy, dazed look on his face. And I was like, I know what your extracurriculars are. But the thing about South African wines is you hit the nail on the head with that one. It's not just that they don't come here, it's that they're not widely found. The best South African wines I had came through Siema, who's a distributor here in Virginia. And Siema is what I call mainstream weird. They're not going to find you the really strange, like, naturally fermented, unfiltered wines, but they'll bring you wine from weird regions that are more or less traditional, like Hungarian wines, Bulgarian wines, varietals that you've heard of, like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and stuff, but just, it's not really stuff you see in the grocery store unless you're at the...
One of the things that I loved about being in Europe was all these wines I'd never seen.
I
was able to find... I had no idea that they made really good wines in Israel.
Yeah.
Golan Heights have some great wines.
Another area, or it's basically.
I knew they made wines. I just didn't know they were any good because I'd never seen them.
The Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, which is climatically very similar to Israel.
Too, yeah.
The thing is that grapes do really, really well in an arid. You need just enough rainfall that they don't die. And then you want to stop there. It's part of the reason that Virginia has been such a problematic place historically to grow grapes. It's not just...
We get the wrong altitude, the wrong amount of rain, and
harsher
the wrong
winters
dirt.
than...
We got clay.
Well, the thing about
I have enough acreage to do a vineyard, but I don't want to make bad wine.
Well, that's the thing, is that you would either have to suffer the loss of all of your vines dying over the winter, or you'd have to grow grapes that you don't want to make into wine.
Right.
That are just basically suited for jelly
Cab
or for...
Franc, occasionally we get decent Cab Franc. Once every decade, there's a really good year, and Virginia's Cab Francs can compete with... Some, not all of them, not the best of them, but they don't suck. And
I will say
that's not good enough. I don't want to have a decent wine every 10 years.
When I worked at Chateau Morissette, I was in charge of sending wines to the competition, and basically Rick Hall, who was the winemaker at the time, and I would get together and basically figure out which ones that we thought were the best entrants for given categories. The Cab Franc from 2010 won a double gold at one of the California wine competitions.
The Cab Franc from 2005 is the only wine there I've ever had where I was like,
and the Petit Verdot.
That's really quite good. Both in 2005.
Both in 2005.
2005 was an extraordinary year for everybody. If you can get your hands on a Riesling from 2005, I don't care what it costs.
And it was really weird because it wasn't just Virginia, it was worldwide.
Oh, it was worldwide,
absolutely. It was German Riesling, French Burgundy, French Bordeaux.
The best Chardonnay I ever had was from 2005.
Yeah.
I had some great Napa Cabs from 2005.
I would love
I still buy, anytime I run into a wine that's 2005, I still buy them all, even if they're wines that are a kind that I don't normally drink, because they were just so outstanding.
Yeah, I would love to see like an analysis of the solar flares from 2005 because
what caused it.
Yeah, well, when you have really good wine like that, what you usually
there
have
are people who know.
There must be, but I mean, it was one of those interesting years where. If you could, because you usually took like about 2 years for them to hit the stores, but in 2007, it's like, okay, like just start grabbing this stuff and building a cellar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to have quite a cellar, 2005, but when I went to Europe, I didn't think I was coming home, so we drank my entire cellar, except for 2 bottles. I gave away an 83 Beaucastle to somebody, and a 72 Margaux.
Yeah, Margaux, that's right.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody was selling it online for like $6,000.
Well, the thing is that
I did not pay that for
it. Well, the other thing is that after a certain point, the fact that it might be one of only 2 or 3, maybe the only one on the market.
I actually managed to buy 4 of them.
Oh, yeah.
We drank one at that tasting when we were at it, where we were drinking nothing but 40-year-old wines, most of which
were awful.
But a couple like the Beaucastles, and I wish I remembered it was in the St. Julian area.
Yeah.
But I could look it up, but I should have done
that. It was interesting to see that the wines from the early 70s that were made by Frenchmen versus the wines from the mid 70s made by Californians.
The Californians who just kicked their butts in the blind tasting for the first time in history.
So we know they were good at one point.
Those wines were better at that point blind, but they sure weren't better when we got them 40 years later, because the Europeans were already making their wines to age, and the Americans weren't yet.
Correct.
They are now.
Well, and also, I mean, the thing is that if you were to take the same amount of time, 72 to 2019, if you take that same amount of time and transliterate it to a wine that's being made now, I guarantee you, as long as they're using like a decent cork, a wine put in the bottle right now, drunk in 2062, will be objectively better just because vinification techniques are better.
Even the bad wines are better. I mean, if you walk in and I made fun of Apothic Red, and I can like talk about Gnarly Head
Predator
and the Predator. Doesn't matter how long you leave that in.
It tastes exactly the same.
You can decant that and spend an hour with it, and it won't change.
Yeah,
and that's from all the stuff that we put in. But the bottom line is, I remember being a kid and having a sip of Riuniti and wanting to throw up. It was so horrible. Sorry, Riuniti. I mean, maybe you're better now. I don't know. But at the time, and I remember the first time I had wine that didn't suck, and I was like, oh, it doesn't have to make you want to throw up.
Well, and
they've just gotten that much better because even the worst wines aren't that bad anymore.
The neat thing about the 80s and the 90s across the world, not just here in America or in Europe, but like in South America and in Australia and in South Africa, is that vinification...
And this gets better as it opens up.
It does.
I was going to say, it doesn't need to be decanted, and thus we didn't. You will see us decant... Well, you've already seen us decant wines. And...
yeah, honestly, I feel like decanting this, you might skip part of the thing that you want to actually
and
experience.
then sometimes we'll do more than one glass, like with something that costs... we're going to do the Wraith later on this year. That's $700 a bottle. So we're going to pour one straight out of the glass and review it, and then we're going to wait an hour while we'll be off camera. We're not going to make you listen to this for an hour. Well, maybe we'll
bring out a bottle of Knob Creek.
Again, we can do some bourbon while we're at it. Absolutely. And we both love bourbons. So, but at any rate, with that one, we'll decant it. We'll let it sit for an hour. But we will drink the first one so we can talk to you about it. And then we'll have a second one and talk to you about how much it changes. This one is changing. This is this is much better.
I get a lot less dried fruit than I did when we first opened it. And I think
the fruit's
honestly, I think that was just a result of it not being all that oxidated.
The fresher fruit, it's not as dried. It's still there. The fruit just doesn't taste stewed or dried.
Well, yeah, if you take dried fruit and you rehydrate it, you find yourself in a kind of in between where it's like it's got some dried fruit character, but it's a lot more fresh.
And the tannins are picking up a bit on the back end.
Definitely,
a little more chalky than they were when we started.
Yeah, I think that
we talk too much, so our wine ages while we talk.
It's a wonderful confluence.
You don't need to be on the other end. We're going to do that anyway.
Well, it's a confluence. It's a harmony of interest. We sit here talking, and our wine develops.
And
this
is what two dudes drinking wine who like each other looks like. Just in case you haven't seen it, because it's shocking how often you don't.
Well, and I will say, and this might be one of those factoids that doesn't have a lot of research behind it, but I have heard that the predominant amount of wine in America is bought by women. Now, it doesn't say it's consumed by women, but bought by women. And it's interesting because, when I was a kid, I considered, and I think at the upper echelons, when you get into like the real hoity-toity aspects, that it's probably predominantly more men.
I'm going to have a little bit more. I wasn't planning to. I was trying to keep it to one glass because at one point I weighed 250 pounds and I was number 23 in Vivino's rankings. But I decided I didn't like weighing 250 pounds. So now under 220, I'm number 240 something.
That was back when you could find 2 of the top 100 featured users in America. 3
at the same shop in Blacksburg, Virginia. There was you, me, and
Randall.
No, not Randall. It was Michael. I think his name is Michael.
Damn it. Mike Zarella?
No, you don't know him.
Oh, okay.
He goes to a lot of the parties that I'm at in
Gotcha.
Blacksburg,
Okay.
And now I'm Tom. His name is Tom.
Tom.
Sorry, Tom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Awesome.
Oh, but he had cancer and he had an operation and it changed his taste, and for a year he couldn't.
Yeah.
And he dropped tremendously out of the top 100.
Oh, yeah.
When that happened, because when wine tastes like.
You don't really want to drink it. It's the same thing I feel when I have a slight cold or when my allergies are really bothering me.
He's recovered from both the not being able to taste wine and the cancer.
Both.
So very happy about that.
Absolutely. But yeah, I remember there was a time at Dogtown. There's a bar here in Floyd, and we were having a bottle of wine together, and we had our Vivino apps out, and there was a couple not too far away, and one of the guys said, "Are you guys using Vivino? We love that app." And we said, "We're 2 of the top 100 users in
we had
America."
To show them. They didn't believe us.
They didn't, no. Which is fair. I wouldn't have believed us either.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to be impressive.
Yep.
I mean, look at me. I got all this hair and this shirt and these wines, and I think I've got enough to say to actually do a video, vlog. So here we are.
I haven't even dressed to impress yet, but maybe someday.
It will happen. It will happen. And I'm still toned down right now.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, this is about like a 6 or a 7 on the usual. Because there's no Star Trek jacket.
Right. No. Yeah, I'm not doing any cosplay today with the wine.
But one of the things I was going to say about the South African wines and their overall lack of quality representation in America is they have one of the most involved quality systems I've ever run across. It basically goes down to what would be like a county, like a county level at Virginia or smaller. Okay. I think there's like 5 different regional designators where you start out with like the largest, and then you work your way down to something that's basically the size of a county. And so I was like, I mean, it makes sense. It's a colony established by the Dutch. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're going to be that kind of organized about their stuff. But when I was trying this stuff at the deepest in like smallest area quality level, it was really, really, really good. And I said to Nicole, it's like, how come I don't run across this stuff? And she's like, most people have got the Pinotage backlash.
And it doesn't get out of Europe, dude.
Right.
No,
it only goes to people like Siema.
They can send it across the ocean and take on all that additional cost. Or just pop it across the Mediterranean, and there they are.
It is worth noting that I believe Siema was either founded by or is currently run by a German. Yep. So the thing is a lot of American wine distribution companies are going to be handling either Californian, Australian, French, Spanish, Italian, like the big 5 with maybe a few little throwaways here and there. Siema's raison d'etre is hitting European places that other distributors don't handle.
Now we've talked about the fact that all these wines that are better elsewhere that we don't get. What I found interesting when I was in Malta and also in Ireland is that their prices on Amarone are half what we pay.
Oh, yeah.
And so is the quality. I'm not sure
really?
why.
But wow.
Amarone is one of the few wines that when I get it in America, it's straight up better than what I get in Europe.
I have a theory about that. The America doesn't produce the most wine in the world, but we consume the most.
Yeah.
And I have a theory.
We're a big-ass country.
We are a big-ass country, and we have a reputation for being thirsty.
We don't always have any taste, but we're thirsty.
Well, I mean, that's Sam Bronfman, the guy who I think he bought Seagram's prior to Prohibition. He just basically part of what he would do. He never broke the law. He would just bring hundreds and hundreds of cases of Seagram's whiskey like to an inch from the American border and let Americans come over and pick it up.
And the other one's breaking the law, not him.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And so he made a colossal amount of money. And they asked him, because he never admitted to anything that he did during Prohibition. He always was evasive about it. And one time a reporter was like, in 1977, he's like, look, dude, you're an old man.
No one's coming after you.
No one's going to prosecute you.
The statutes of limitations are long.
He was like, how did you make so much money during Prohibition? And Sam Bronfman said, look, you people are thirsty.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the thing is that it's interesting to think, because you would think that France or Italy would consume the most wine.
Well, the thing is, they're so much smaller.
They're so much smaller.
California is bigger than any European country.
And even
that's not quite true.
And wine has become a lot more popular in America than it used to be. Back in the 1960s, when my dad was growing up, men might drink beer, spirits recreationally, and the two big ones were Lancers and Mateus. They drank sweet rosé wine if they drank rosé.
My parents were teetotalers. I never saw alcohol.
Right,
so I started drinking as a teen.
And then when I was growing up, I only saw my dad start drinking wine when I was about 14, because wine was what you bought when you had money. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily how it has to be, but that's kind of how my dad thought about it.
Mad Dog 2020, it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, and back when my dad was in college, they used to get really interesting wines in the Finger Lakes in New York, and nowadays it's like you'll see some of it, but it's like Salmon Run and maybe Bully Hill if you're going to like a wine store like Vintage Cellar. They have some decent upstate New York wines.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
When I was I have a problem with northern wines. The same problem really that I have with
it's the
Virginia
same problem
wines.
Exactly.
They don't hit the spots I'm after.
Yeah, no, and I mean a lot of them aren't very good.
I mean, if you're looking for sweet, ice wines in Canada are pretty good if you want sweet. If you don't, you're out of luck. I mean, I had Wayne Gretzky's Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh God!
Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Gretzky, you were a great hockey player.
Maybe you should have stuck to that.
I don't even know if that's the problem because it's where he lives. I mean,
I know.
There's nothing you can do about.
Why would you grow Cabernet Sauvignon in Canada?
And you can't.
Is it a state grown?
You see, I don't know if he grew it or not. I had it a tasting in a shop that I think was somehow associated with him. Because you look at that. I mean, people might say that about Drew Bledsoe,
right?
And he's in Walla Walla, Washington. He makes goddamn great.
It's true.
Wine.
The sports person is not the one making the wine. They hire someone to do that for them with the millions of dollars.
I don't actually know squat about Gretzky's wines.
That's true.
Well, I do. I tasted it and I hated it.
Right.
But that was, I had one sip and like, aren't you going to finish it? I was like, no, I'm not.
I would be really surprised if the Cabernet Sauvignon were a state grown. My guess is he probably had it tanked.
What do they have? Like 3 weeks they can grow? I mean,
right. Well, not only that, they wouldn't survive a winter up there.
No. Well, that's what I mean.
It's really interesting when I tell people this because the American concept of European winters assumes that they're much colder than they are. European winters are milder. Unless you're up in the mountains, are milder than American winters because
Ireland certainly is mild.
Oh, absolutely.
It never gets below 30 much. I mean, it snowed once the whole time I was there, and I was there during the winter. And then I went to Malta, and it was funny. There were weather advisories. Yeah. And it was going to be super cold. It was down to 55 degrees.
Right.
And we just laughed.
Yeah.
That's just laughed. I grew up in New England.
It's not far from that right now. I think it's like in the mid-60s right now.
Yeah. We've got a nice, comfortable day. A little chilly, but we're wearing
Malta's in the Mediterranean, so there.
That was a beautiful country.
Yeah,
and it was amazing. And I immediately met one of the wine distributors because I knocked him off as number one in Riesling in the country, which is hilarious. I was like number one in I think 107 different wines.
Yeah,
in America, I am number one in one wine I don't even particularly like.
Yeah, well, how many people are there in Malta?
There are 500,000 people.
Wow,
that's a lot more. And what's crazy is we live in Floyd, Virginia. It's 3 times the size of Malta land-wise.
Wow.
There's only 15,000 people.
Country.
Oh, very densely populated. But it was like living in in the scene in a movie because it was like Spartacus. I was at a couple of the older cities. We spent a week in Valletta. We spent a week in Victoria. Oh my God, it was just like being plopped down in an old movie.
Because it's been continuously occupied for like 8,000 years or something like that. Longer?
Well, there were people there 10,000 years ago, but they weren't there 5,000 years ago or so when everybody showed up. So they don't actually even know who those people were because they can't get any genetic material out of the bones that they do have because they had a habit of breaking them all up and throwing them into a big storage area.
Yep.
There's one place that we went to. I wish I could remember the name of it, but at any rate, there were 7,000 bodies in this one little room, and they weren't stacked. They were just whittled
chopped
down,
up and
each bone thrown in on its own.
Well, they're probably pre-Indo-European.
They were. Yes, they were Stone Age.
Yeah, they were contemporaries with the Basques' ancestors or the Etruscans.
Someday they'll probably pull somebody with enough DNA to figure out who they were. Well, but Malta's a great place, really amazing, interesting culturally. Go there.
And Warren,
but not in August.
Yeah, Warren was lucky enough to make friends with a wine distributor who ran a wine shop, right?
All because of Vivino.
Yeah.
Because he messaged me and was like, "Who are you? And how did you knock me off of number one?" And I was like, "I just got here from Ireland.
I'm here.
I'm an American via Ireland.
Yeah, I'm here fleeing COVID and numerous other political instabilities.
Let's not go there. But yes. All right. So. We've been going for a while.
We have.
We're just about half done with the bottle. I don't think I'm going to make you folks watch us drink this whole bottle. So
overall, I mean, we were giving Predator a hard time because for us, wine should have an evolutionary curve where it starts in one place and goes to another, has an arc, and Predator's is a flat line.
That's because of all the stuff they put into it.
Yeah.
They can guarantee a certain level of quality because of it.
Right.
But they can't go beyond a certain level.
There's some kind of sorcery going on there, yeah. But this one of the things I really I remember liking about it then, and I like about it now, is the evolution within the glass. We started off talking about the tart fruit character, the dried fruit character, and it has really evolved in like what I would call a fuller, plusher kind of feel.
And while we're talking about the wine, let's go with. I just want you guys to know that I guess their tagline is the woman who moves a mountain starts with a single stone, and I'm like, and a glass of wine.
Nice. I like that too because here in Floyd County we have the man who moved a mountain. Yep. So that's really fitting for us. You can't tell because we're on top of them, but we're actually on top of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
The Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yeah.
We're at 2,600 feet down here in the lowest portion of my property where the water is.
Yep. So we are actually on top of a mountain, even though we don't have anything approaching what people out west in the Rockies would call.
Right, well, it's because these mountains are old.
They are very old. They got eroded down. They were taller than the Himalayas when they were young, but that was 500 million years ago.
I missed it.
Yeah, I think Strom Thurmond was maybe like 2025 when the Blue Ridge Mountains were at their apex. Whenever I have a visitor come to town, they're like, "So you're in the mountains? Like, where are the mountains?" I take them up the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'm like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, if you look down there, it's about 3,500 feet down."
Yep.
So.
All right, I want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We're going to keep doing this. We're hoping to come at you at least once a week. If you have a favorite wine that you'd like to know what we think of, let us know. Put it in the comments and wherever you're getting this particular feed of ours.
Yeah.
And
let us know what you're paying for it.
And if there's a wine that costs like $50 to $100 and you're thinking about it and you're not sure if you want to drop the coin, I want to drop
Warren.
the coin. So just let me know.
He might have already drunk it.
I may have already had it, yes. Yeah. But, we've got thousands of wines that we're hoping to share with you over the next however long this lasts.
And if you're on Vivino, you should follow him one way or the other because...
And I'm trying to get Will back on there, and you should follow him.
I fell away from it. I went through a hard phase in my life where I wasn't making as much money as I used to, and one of the unfortunate casualties... Yes. One of the unfortunate casualties of that was wine.
Yeah.
I mean, for the what we're going to be doing here, and just for old time's sake, I really love writing interesting or reviews that I hope are interesting.
Yeah.
I want to try to reach people through a combination of creative writing and chemical expertise.
Yes.
So it would be nice to get back into
You
Vivino.
should follow us on Facebook, Twitter,
Instagram,
TikTok,
and Vivino.
We're even gonna do. I may keep my clothes on, but we're even gonna do an OnlyFans.
But that's.
I may not keep my shirt on. I promise you.
But the only
I shouldn't make promises, should I?
the only fans is purely financial, whereas the others are actually informative.
Well, we'll put up the stuff there so they can have the same opportunity at the informativeness.
That's true.
And it's, we're going to continue to try to have a good time when we do this. Make sure you have a good time watching us do this. And go out and find One Stone. It is a $20 bottle of wine that drinks like a $50 bottle of wine. You won't go wrong with this one.
Bring it to a party, serve it blind, and see what people think of it.
Everybody will be impressed that you brought a wine that tastes this good to the party.
And chances are good they don't know about it, because I'd never heard of it.
I got it by accident. I was buying wines from, wine.com or one of those places on Vivino where you can buy wine, and I needed one more wine to fill out a case.
Yeah.
And this was $19, and the reviews were solid, and people that I trusted had good reviews. I said, just throw one in so I can get that discount, which was more than the price of the bottle, so it would have been stupid not to get it.
Right.
And then it arrived, and when I opened it, I immediately ordered a case of it.
I remember that.
It's good and solid, and the thing about it that I really like is if I'm going to a party where I know the people there really don't appreciate good, expensive wine, I don't want to open a $100 bottle of wine for them. They're not going to enjoy it.
But you want to bring a nice wine that they can enjoy.
I want to bring a nice wine I can enjoy.
Well, but also maybe you might turn a heart that day, and
it's very much so. Yes, very much so.
Open someone's eyes.
It's true, but that way, it's approachable. It's inexpensive.
Yep.
The people there, when you talk to it, you don't have to embarrass them by telling them how expensive it is.
Yeah.
And that they might be someone who can't afford it if it's $100 or $200 bottle. So when you bring this, it's really just a lot easier. And the people that I've had taste this, even the ones that aren't into the big, bold reds like I am, seem to enjoy it.
It's a nice midpoint. It's a
very nice midpoint. And it's nice when you can find the midpoints at 20 instead of 50.
Especially at Paso Robles. That's the part that
I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing a wonderful wine. Now, some of the things is sometimes when these come out, they've got these great prices, and then either they raise the price or they lower the quality.
Mm-hmm.
Like If You CK, sorry guys, that was a very good wine about a decade ago. I don't like it anymore. They've just made it more mass produced. It doesn't taste as good.
Did the price go up or
I don't really know. I don't drink it anymore. I had a couple of bottles in a row that didn't do anything for me, and I stopped drinking it.
It for me, it's like if the price goes up somewhat but the quality is still good, it's like
you hooked me in. You gave it to me cheap, and then I discovered it was worth a lot more, and then you wanted a lot more.
I would much prefer the price go up.
That is marketing 101. I have no problem with that.
I would much rather the price go up
than the quality go down.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we really do have to let you go and get on with the rest of your life. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back.
We definitely will.